Hello and welcome back to a new video. Today I'm working on the third campaign level with the DLC, Candyland. So Candyland was an interesting scenario. First of all, the scenario only had entrance fees to get money from, so rides and drink and food stalls were all free, making that super hard. So I failed this map 7 times, I think. So this was the final run I finally did, and I finally think this was the better run. And decorating in a more, I don't know, restrictive environment really is difficult, and I couldn't think of a proper theme for this map because candy is kind of like a generic theme. So the first thing that I get to build right now is a ice cream castle roller coaster. So the coaster is, I think, the wooden inverted, and so I just thought, okay, I needed candy themed, so I went for more of a, well, this is an ice cream castle, so I kind of pulled a lot of inspiration from the board game Candyland, and I also pulled inspiration from was it Candy Rush, the arcade game from Wreck-It Ralph, because that's all candy based as well. So that was the challenge, was finding things that were, well, candy themed, but yet not so, I don't know, it's a hard theme to kind of get your head around. So I am happy that I made a castle, so you'll see how that turns out. But I went for so cones, ice cream cones as your defense towers, and I used the new Mayan building, Mayan brick walls, I can't think, and everything here was, well, that's basically it so far. So I was just building the ice cream cones. Ice cream cones are made of the whipped cream piece and then some of the cylinder parts. I tested out different types of border parts for the top of the walls, things like that. These maps are hard to decorate. They're easy to play in if you're just kind of like spamming rides and stuff like that. Because with this scenario, you have to spam a lot of rides to get a lot of people into your park quickly, and then you get the money. But at this point, I was just like, okay, well, this is a decoration run. I kind of need to just see if I can decorate it. So that's what I get to do here. Very simple stuff. Going to start working on basically going to do the tops of the castle, so your main hall or something, or some of the rooms. Used these are called, I think these are gingerbread. Yeah, I would call these gingerbread walls, kind of. Yeah, there's not a lot to the candy theme, because in the candy theme we got a whole bunch of candy, so peppermint, candy corn, chocolate, cookies, these candy roofs. Okay, so not a lot of stuff to kind of work with, so it was the challenge of working with this theme. But I wanted a castle from the beginning. I've been playing with and testing with castles for a while, because I'm not that into castles. Building castles is kind of like a new thing for me, so building it like this was kind of a fun and challenging and frustrating thing to do. So yeah, this is how it's gonna go. And so just gonna build some of the towers. Yeah, one big tower and then one little tower next to it, kind of just offset it. Nothing really special. And then the inverted wooden coaster was interesting to build with, because I have been on it. I don't think I've been on I have not been on a inverted wooden coaster, so that was kind of the challenge to figure that out. And it was kind of weird where I put this ride, but sometimes I'm good at making coaster layouts, sometimes I'm not, depending on how invested I am. Because again, I failed this map 7 times, and it was kind of hard to kind of put things in this map with existing things. If you understand what that, yeah, existing things. So the existing things was 2 coasters, a hanging and a hyper, and then I think 2 flat rides. Yes, 2 flat rides was a simulator and the Turbolorn, whatever it's called, the cube spinning ride. So those were already existing, so it's kind of hard to kind of add on to a map that's kind of basically fleshed out. We have to add more rides to get more customers. Tip for this scenario: in the beginning, bump the admission price to like $50 or $55. You'll get more money that way quickly because the guests spawn in with at least $60, and then they start spawning in with 160 sometimes, depending on not a lot of them, but they do come in with $100 or something. So you can bump it as high as, I think I got up as high as 80, and then they stop coming in. Or they start complaining, or they can't say, "Oh, I can't afford it," so they don't walk in. So just finishing up details. The borders again. I use a lot of borders for this, and then you won't see as I build another tower later on. That's later on when I felt like it needed another tower, stuff like that. So I think the castle looks good because I've done a castle experiment like 2 times. Castles are not usually my forte. I do want to build a castle for a scenario, kind of off topic. Yeah, I do want to build a castle for like a scenario someday. We'll see if I get to that because I've been quite busy this holiday season. So on to working on the rest of the inverted wooden. Just kind of a very basic layout, nothing special. It goes into a couple airtime hills, and then turns into 2 loops, and then into the underground to finish off to the station. Because I think this was the first coaster I added. Yeah, it was the first coaster I added to the map after the other 2 were already put in. The other 2 coasters that are from the beginning of the map. So that would be in a hanging and a hyper coaster. I can't think. Okay, yeah. So you can see just here, this is just working on this, finishing it up and going into underground, and then just going up straight up and then into the station to Breakfront. So very, very basic, straightforward, inverted wooden. So I'll be using this coaster more often because I do like that you can invert things and stuff like that. Here's into the next section I get to build for the castle because I felt like the castle needed a little small village nearby, and a flat ride and some restaurants to kind of accompany it, because I feel like when you build a ride, you need a big ride like a roller coaster. It needs like supporting rides near it. So a flat ride and some restaurants. And so that's what I get to do. So just building a very basic chocolate candy cottage or some sort. So it just kind of went for a medieval theme here again, because that's kind of what we're going for. Medieval theme, and then chocolate themed, and then color it the same color, brown. Lots of brown, whites, frosting, all that good stuff. So I think it looks good. I like the new door pieces we got. They're very, very useful in hiding basically small, hiding employee paths and things like that. I like that very much. It's like the best thing that was added to this game. So I will continue on building in the campaign levels. I'm going to skip around. I'm not going to go in order because I feel like some of the maps don't have a good theme that I could base off of, or I can't think outside the box. We'll see. I have some plans for like the last scenario that I'm not sure how many people have finished the game, because I think I know a couple people of my friends list have completed the game, and I don't want to like just jump to it, and that would be a spoiler. So I kind of maybe hold off on that last one. But I have some other other scenarios I want to finish. I have a big scenario that I'm finishing up with a friend, and it's a sci-fi city of some sort. Don't know the name yet, we haven't decided, but that one's coming up, and I will be showing you a tour of that when it's like fully finished, because I worked on it over the Christmas break, and it looks pretty cool. So here's a little trick I figured out to do with making custom chimneys. As a quick cut, I used the marshmallow piece as the brick, and then the regular shape as the main chimney, and then just kind of like made the bricks overlapping and or offset to each other. It kind of looks like bricks, but it's made of marshmallow. So you can also use that for a real chimney if you want to, because there's some scenery items that I didn't get or I didn't research. I only researched up to the Mayan themed or something. So on to one of my other favorite projects that I thought of while I was working on this map was I needed a candy factory, and I wanted it incorporated the new safari ride, and I felt like the safari ride didn't need to be, well, safari themed, so I decided to go for like a candy tour with a truck. So this is where I'm going to work on, is a simple candy factory with some little things here and there. Yeah, I thought this was fun to do, a candy factory, because this area right in front of the inverted coaster was kind of missing some things. So I'm just going to work on a simple elevated platform that's going to house some candy stuff or machinery. I wanted to make vats of like chocolate that are outside, so you kind of like the truck goes around it. That was kind of the first idea. I knew also I needed to make maybe a mixing machine or something that would mix the chocolate or whatever this candy factory does. The station was going to be the main factory building, so I knew it had to be pink but also look industrial. I pulled inspiration from Wreck-It Ralph and the Candy Rush scene, or the scene where Vanellope makes her go-kart in the cake factory. So I kind of pulled inspiration for that, because that was a pretty cool scene where you get to make all your go-karts and candy and all that cool stuff. So that's kind of what I went for, experimenting with the new truck ride. Yeah, the truck ride's pretty cool. I like it. I like how it works. The only downside is that you can't change the track color completely. So you can change the bus bar in the middle and the edges of the track, but the track itself will stay that brown color. I did not know that, and that kind of was a disappointment. Like, I wanted to make it more pink, or I don't know, white frosting colored to make it more candy, because candy's kind of like what bright colors and stuff, and that didn't show up. So I was a little disappointed, but I think I did well with I could do with the safari ride, because the safari ride kind of puts itself in a corner when it's called the safari ride. You have to like, oh, it's a safari ride. Okay, so I have to build a safari theme for it. No, I wanted to kind of go outside the box and change it. That's why I kind of do with some of the rides I've done before. I did that with the monorail coaster a long time ago. I made a bobsled roller coaster out of it because I thought it looked like a bobsled more. So I kind of like go for that, go the extra step of making it something else. So just making the layout, making sure where things should go. I knew I needed like some type of cylinders that house sugar or syrup maybe, or frosting, stuff like that. So I'm gonna make little spots for them, kind of planning ahead where things should go. Yeah, but things change a lot when you work on a project. It's sometimes good to have a plan, sometimes it's not good to have a plan. It's really hard to kind of like think like, oh, let me just, I don't know, make a plan or not. So here's some of the cylinders I was talking about earlier. So bright colors again. And then I knew I needed like some smokestacks of some sort. I've done smokestacks a lot before. Not a big deal for me, but I wanted to make it a little different. So on the top here, I'm going to use some peppermint spheres or cylinders. Yeah, cylinders. Kind of stack them off like this, and I think it looks cool. It's made of candy because it's a candy factory. Because that's what would happen if this was real. You just build out of candy. And then I added some of the one of those bumpers. Not bumpers. They're like speed bumps. Well, I'll call them speed bumps. Yeah. I find those are awesome because they're off grid. You can kind of put them anywhere you want. I was playing with it when the DLC came out. I made the Jeep like jump so much because it made them like really close together. So it's just kind of cool little thing they did. So here's off to one of like the first machineries that I did was a very generic mixing machine that's into chocolate. And I think this looked pretty cool. I could have worked a little bit more on it, but I had to focus on some of the things around because of the money issue. Because this scenario is actually This was one of the hard ones, I think, because when you limit it to just entrance price, everybody can go on as many rides as they want and buy as much food as they want, but you still have to pay for the food. It's like weird. I don't know. It was an interesting scenario. So very simple stuff. So cubes and then on to regular spheres to get that front end of the mixer. Yeah, I like just basic, I don't know, model making at this point, because that's what it is. Model making in Parkitect. Yep. I think this looks nice. It looks like an old-fashioned, like 50 styles mixer. Reminds me of the one that my mom has. It's called a KitchenAid. So that's basically what it is. So quick cut onto adding some more details. I knew that I needed like crates of candy ready to be processed or something. So I kind of worked on that a little bit. I kind of jump around again. I try not to, but it's really hard to sometimes focus on one thing and then go on to the next thing. Yeah, it's kind of how I work. It's kind of hard to tell yourself to change up your work habit. Oh, excuse me. Having some throat issues today. So here's some gumdrops and things like that. Okay, on to finishing up some details. I knew that later on I needed to build some type of, I don't know, conveyor belt system with candy on it, so I decided to put it on top of the roof here next to the smokestacks. Also needed pipes also leading from the cylinders here. And that's basically what I get to work on here. And then I also worked on finishing up the detailing on the mixer. So yeah, just figuring things out, things on that. Not much going on, but finishing details. So yeah, figuring out what a mixer should look like. I kind of buckled and went for a normal cylinder shape later. Yeah. And then me getting money and things like that and loans, because I ran out of money very, very quickly, because you don't get a lot in quickly, so that is the challenge about this map. So, basic stuff, figuring out what I need to do. Construction anarchy is really, really useful in this type of detailing, because, yeah, it's precise in its grid, and it's precise in its elevation. Again, this mod is a great tool to have. It's good for detail work. I can tell you that. It's good for detail work. So yeah, details, things like that, figuring out where things should go. And then, yeah, spammed a whole bunch of security guards because vandals decided to break every known thing possible. Annoying, but it is what it is. Vandals really do destroy your park rating, and it's really, really something. And you have to keep an eye on that. I also knew that I needed a sign to advertise for the candy factory, and so I decided to make it Happy Co themed, so I called it Happy Candy Inc. Kind of keeping the inside lore of this game, because there's apparently some lore, which I like. I like the Happy Co brand. I think it's funny. So I decided to do some simple candy stuff, and then did some candies on the sign, and I think it turned out really well. So here's the mixer, finishing up with just cylinders, kind of make it a mixer. I'm like, okay, looks like a mixer, I like it. Looks good. Finishing up adding some more maybe steps of concrete, or I don't know, more work area. I decided to paint all the cylinders that I put down. It's really hard when you don't have pipes in this scenario, because I didn't search them up, so I decided to make everything by hand with shapes. It's very tedious work, but I think sometimes it pulls itself off when you do things like that. Here comes my second conveyor belt. I decided to put it in front of the factory because I felt like this area was empty when the truck goes around, goes through the factory. I felt like I need another conveyor belt. So I decided to make this just I think cookies go on this conveyor belt, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, cookies, I think so, as I just put down more supports and pillars, make sure it looks somewhat realistic. Again, this candy factory is make-believe, like everything else. Which is the cool thing about Parkitect. You don't have to make everything so realistic, but it's also a challenge to make things realistic too. I do agree with that sometimes, but I kind of want to go for a fantasy feel sometimes when I work on something silly and things like that. So, yeah. So there's the cookies in the conveyor belt. I don't know where they're going. They're going somewhere. Not really important. It just kind of looks nice. I mean, it does make sense. Does not make sense. It depends. So on to the quick last section of the video. This is going to be the Peppermint Valley coaster, which is going to be a junior coaster that I decided to build last second. And so you can see there's a village already placed in. I built that like the first moments of this map or this save. I built a little village that I thought I could build the castle for, but then I built the castle somewhere else. So, no big deal. Building a simple junior coaster. But I like the idea that it was peppermint themed. Because if you're having trouble with the candy theme, it would be best to theme it to a certain candy, like peppermint or cotton candy or candy corn or chocolate or something. You theme it to a candy, then you can kind of base off of it. So yeah, just finishing up, going to the bend of, well, finishing it off. So it goes into the brake run and then boom, junior coaster's done. So yeah, what else can, well, just a basic roofed, well, it was a basic like cottage building, how to have to match the rest of the buildings in this area, because I built in this area the new experience ride and the teacups and a couple restaurants, and that was a cookie stand next to the coaster. So I felt that has to be matched to that. I did do some new roofing techniques that you'll see in about maybe a minute. So here's the simple roof, and then some white walls. I went for a candy cane theme again, so peppermint, candy cane, so red and white is the theme. I think it pulls itself off really well. I like this one at the end, because I was having trouble finishing this map. It's been a couple weeks now, and I'm glad it's finished. I'm glad I can go work on some other projects now. And maybe reorganize myself when making videos, because that's been the hardest part for me, was making or getting the urge to make videos and stuff like that. But yeah, enough of me complaining. Here comes the cool part where I figured out with the roofs. So I wanted to make tile work again as usual, but this time I wanted to use a different piece to kind of like make it different and unique and see if I can pull something off. So on to finishing, well, just adding some candy canes to kind of get me in the mood, kind of figure out where's my candy canes going to go and things like that. So, alright, onto the tiles, or the new type of tile that I wanted to do for the roof. So I used one of the new candy pieces. This would be the heart-shaped one. Colored it brown to match the roof, and then basically did the top of the heart facing out to give it this bumpy tile look. And I think this worked out pretty well. I might have to adjust it when I do it again on a different building or something. But this looks really cool after it completes itself. And then there you go, a new type of roofing of mine. And then I added a peppermint border on top to finish the top, because the candies couldn't get any smaller, and that didn't really work out, but I think it looks cool. And then adding some candy cane detailing on the roof, and then I finished up. Also, I wanted to make a peppermint tree of some sort, because I knew that the coaster had to go through some type of forest or valley with growing peppermint trees or something, so I kind of built it out of peppermint pieces and candy cane pieces in general. I think it turned out really cool, kind of just experimenting again. When you have new pieces, it's good to experiment with. And then I made the tops of the trees out of whipped cream puffs, and I think it looks pretty cool. And then yeah, added some candy cane detailing on top. I think they turned out really cool, and I just blueprinted it and then plopped down like 3 to 4 more of them, I think, around the coaster. And then I also had to later paint the entire area snow-like, so it's like this is only a fresh snowed area for the candy canes or something like that. And I had also puffed like whipped cream bushes with, again, candy canes. The last thing I needed to add was something that to draw your interest on the station, so I had to build some type of tower. Yeah, so I just finished the tower, and then onto next will be the actual, I don't know, tour of the map. I kind of did a short tour. So it starts off with the peppermint. No, this is called Candy Cane Valley, and it will continue to show you more things. So I'm gonna let you guys go. I had fun with this one. I will probably be doing more scenarios of the DLC in the future. I'll jump around. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.